The Leafs' plans surrounding Mitch Marner's future in Toronto have been leaked, and following the worst loss in the Core 4 era, reports have already started to escalate and circulate surrounding Mitch Marner's future in Toronto, and the plans have been leaked. We're going to break down exactly what that is and discuss what this means going forward, as well as some other crazy updates, including comments from Mitch Marner himself on his future, as well as some other things. A ton to go over today. It's going to be absolutely crazy, especially as these reports and rumors continue to circulate. But before we get into it, your guys' support has been absolutely unbelievable. We are less than 1,000 subscribers away from 20,000, and that has been a goal of Darius and myself for a very long time. So if you want to help us towards that goal, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And thank you guys again for your continued support over here. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had some time now. It's the morning after. It's the day after. It is a disappointing day. The Leafs, obviously, the season is over. We're not waking up to hockey. We're not waking up to line changes, all these different things. What we are waking up to is the fact that Mitch Marner, hopefully, is not going to be a Toronto Maple Leaf much longer, and his plans have been leaked. And Darren Dreger came out here and in a bit of a surprising turn of events, almost, is putting the fans against Mitch Marner more than they already have. And believe me, most fans are done with him anyway. But Darius, I want to hear your thoughts on this. So TSN's Darren Dreger on Mitch Marner. I think that Toronto was comfortable at one point paying Mitch Marner on a mega extension of 8 years, upwards of $13.5 million per year. And he added now that he doesn't think, and if you actually listen to it, he basically says and implies that the Leafs have rescinded that offer now, and that is no longer on the table. So at one point, and for the first time we're hearing this fully in concrete, during this season, at least we assume, or maybe it was last offseason, whatever it was, they were willing to pay Mitch Marner almost $14 million a year. That is no longer the case. This comes out right after the Leafs lose. There's some antics being played there, but at the very least, according to this, we also have a report from Jonas Siegel saying the same thing, that the Core 4 is over. They are no longer willing to pay him $13.5, and ultimately, I do think a team will be, and I don't think it's going to be the Leafs.
No, it could be another team. It could be the Chicago Blackhawks, the
Utah.
New York Rangers, just to name a few. Utah has some salary cap space. Like somebody's going to pay him that much, but it's not going to be the Toronto Maple Leafs. And again, he could get that much, but it's going to be on a team that probably won't make the playoffs or will be a fringe team, right? And that's fine for him, I guess, if he wants to go chase that, but it's just not going to work in Toronto anymore. And I do think that, we know that Darren Dreger has been a little bit of a middleman between, the general population, the fan base, and of course, Mitch Marner and his camp at times. But in looking at that tweet specifically and what Darren Dreger was putting out there already last night after the game, it almost looks like the Leafs are starting to leak some of this stuff out through Darren Dreger and some of the other media personalities and stuff like that, like Elliot Friedman and whatnot. Because I just don't know if, as an organization, you can re-sign this player. I think we're past that at this point. He is not going to be a Toronto Maple Leaf next year. I'm not even sure if the Toronto Maple Leafs would say yes if he was like, sure, let's do it for $8 million at this point, because you just can't win with this player. They're gonna have to use the salary cap space that they're saving from him and probably half of Tavares' contract. We don't know what's gonna happen with Tavares either, but you're definitely saving money on him even if he returns, to go out and build this team's offense a little bit differently. I don't know if they need like more scoring necessarily, but guys with the right attitude and mindset, a winner's mindset. They don't have that in this dressing room. They're going to have to make a lot of changes. It's going to start at the top too. Like, I would be shocked if Brendan Shanahan isn't let go at some point during the course of this week. Like, I'm sure we're going to find that out as well. But in terms of Mitch Marner, there's no way he's getting that dollar amount here. And I don't think he's getting any dollar amount here. I think he's done as a Maple Leaf. And I have to say credit to his team for sticking to their guns. I have to appreciate, they followed through on what they said. We're not going to negotiate in season. Either gets done last summer, or we were going to talk at free agency, or, we're going to walk him to free agency this year. And that's exactly what they did. So credit there. They followed through with what they were going to say. But maybe it was an out clause just in case things got ugly here. At the end of the game, every time he touched the puck, he was getting booed. He might go down as one of the most hated Leafs in history. And he's a great player. It's unfortunate that this happened. But honestly, I think that, his play, what his camp did through the years, they did it to himself, right? The player did it to himself, unfortunately. So it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of move away from this, what the plan is moving forward, but it's going to start this week.
Yeah, and we obviously, at the end of the day, you can see here from James Myrtle, the relationship is not in a very good place behind the scenes. Most fans, including us, have had enough of Mitch Marner. I think we're ready for him to be ran out of town here to a degree. He ran himself out of town. And as he leaves Toronto, at least what we assume is going to be leaving Toronto, it's going to be a little bit interesting over the next few days. Let us know down below what your thoughts are on our new custom animation there. But we'll be using that going forward. I'm kind of it's not necessarily not a personal thing against Mitch Marner by any means. the team just needs a different look here. And obviously, $13.5 million is crazy. And he also declined the Mikko Rantanen trade. And you see this here. If this is true that Marner rejected this offer this year and also rejected the Rantanen trade, I have zero sympathy for him. Crocodile tears. Singular focus on getting the most he can from this org. A winner is willing to sacrifice for his team. Now, I will, it might be a hot take. I don't necessarily agree with that part. At the end of the day, Mitch Marner he's trying to make money for his family. He's trying to get his maximum dollar. I don't put a single blame on him or any player for trying to milk as much money as possible. That's not something that I want to do and even imply. I mean, it's just the end of the day. Mitch Marner was never going to take a payday to stay in Toronto. It's just not going to happen. And I think he rejected the trade simply because he probably knew a family was coming. He obviously had his child there recently. But I mean, he plays really bad hockey, and strictly hockey-wise, I haven't been, that's what I'm most frustrated with. Not necessarily rejecting the trade. He was well within his right to do so. If you want to blame someone for that, you can blame Kyle Dubas. You shouldn't blame Mitch Marner for that one. However, I don't have an ounce of sympathy for him either. The way that he's handled, I mean, his agent even last year, those are things that I didn't like. But regarding trying to get his most, I mean, sacrifice for his team, this is his huge payday. I don't blame him for not taking a pay cut when he's aged, mid-20s.
No, I'm not going to blame the player, but as an organization, you can't pay this player that much anymore. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work. They're going to need different players in here with lower cap hits that have a different mindset and want to win. And we know years ago, even back in 2019, when they first signed their first contracts out of their ELCs, Austin Matthews was first. And then, Darren Ferris was all over the Toronto media saying, like, this is ridiculous. Mitch Marner's going to make as much. He should be making as much. Like, it started then. And it's not even Mitch Marner's fault. I do kind of feel bad for him because, again, I think it was more of his camp starting that, and people started to turn at that point in time, and then his play didn't follow with the cap hit that he was given. It's unfortunate. And I know the narrative from a lot of non-Leaf fans as well, maybe even some Leaf fans, are going to be great. We're going to let this guy go for nothing, and then he's going to go to another team and win a Stanley Cup, like Larry Murphy, like Phil Kessel, like Tyler Bozak, all these players, right? He might do that, but he's not going to be like a one or two guy on those teams. He's going to be maybe the fourth best player on a team that wins a Stanley Cup. We've seen that he can't do it. Maybe a change of scenery will do him good. Maybe the pressure of Toronto does get to him. We've seen that. Maybe he's just not built to play here, right? But the other narrative that's been, built up over the last 24 hours of it's hard to play in Toronto. The fans are too hard on the team. That's not the case. This team was disappointing. They did the same thing again. The lights were too bright again. The fan base is disappointed because after 9 years of preaching patience for the Shannon plant to finally work out after 58 years of disappointment, we know what we've known all along. It wasn't going to work at some point. Maybe not all along, but halfway through, we figured it out. It wasn't going to work, and they didn't make any changes. So for that, if he does win a Stanley Cup somewhere else, and he walks for nothing, that's on Brendan Shanahan, and that's a fireable offense, and I think he's going to be fired this offseason because they should have traded him 2 years ago where you could have gotten assets for him.
Yeah, and you saw some of the comments there, Mitch Marner saying, I mean, we know Austin Matthews said there was too many passengers. Mitch Marner agreed on that, and I think Mitch Marner was one of those passengers, which was a little bit ironic. But on his emotions, he's feeling sadness, depression, all of it, and he said he kind of wants to stay in Toronto. That's been something he's publicly said in the past prior to, of course, he didn't say that in the postgame directly. Brad Newmarner wasn't signing the stuff about wanting to keep him, how great he is just for the media. He wanted Rantanen for a reason that will haunt us for a very long time. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you can't get caught up in the rant. I don't at least want to get caught up in the Rantanen thing because it was well within Marner's right to decline. It dates back to before his no trade clause was in effect. So a frustrating time, but at the same time, changes are going to be made. And what could have been with Mitch Marner is going to be the biggest question. But now it seems that he has ran out of town, and it's going to be very interesting. And him not showing up when it mattered is the biggest piece of context here. Let us know down below what your thoughts are on this situation. I think it's a little bit crazier than we initially thought. And we're going to, of course, keep you up to date as it continues to get crazier over the next few days, weeks, months, all these different things. And this is the place to be for daily Leafs content. So make sure to hit the subscribe button. Thank you guys for watching. See you later.